Hi everyone, Morgan Roy here again. Today we're just gonna tell a little D&D story about how I tried to do something a little bit risky with my group, and thankfully they were okay with it. I just thought it was cool when I was worried how they might react, and they reacted in a good way. But I was a little nervous to try it out. So what happened was the group I'm running for is trying to take on these 6 big bads. Think of like Final Fantasy IV, well, most of the Final Fantasy games, where you have a bunch of big bads that you're fighting one by one. And they've taken out 2 of them, one that they legitimately took out, and one that made a deal with them to be ignored in exchange for information. So they are going to the 3rd place. And on their way to the place, they receive a message from the guy that they are wanting to fight. And his message asks if he can meet them in a public place and discuss possible ways for this situation to be avoided. And they agreed tentatively, but they were going to take precautions. So they decided to go to the city that this guy was at, and they went in disguise because at this point, everybody thinks they've taken out 2 of these guys, so they're basically public enemy number 1 right now. And they went to this tavern that this guy wanted to meet at. So they went there and they went a little earlier than they were supposed to meet him. And they kept an eye out. And after a while, the guy arrived, and they didn't really know what this guy looked like. They knew his name and his title. But they figured the one guy who was scanning the bar suspiciously was probably that guy. So he went to sit down, and he ordered a drink. One of the players who was in disguise went over and decided to flirt with him a bit and get some information. And he seemed a little nervous, but he was receptive to the flirting. And after they chatted for a bit, he asked her if she wanted to meet up somewhere else away from the tavern. And he said, maybe just leave for a bit because I have to have a meeting and this meeting might get a little rough and tumble just in case. So maybe just leave the premises for a bit. So, in disguise, she agreed to this, and then she left, and the other people filed out, still in disguise. And the lady who was doing the flirting, the paladin, noticed that on the other side of the street, she could see some people looking through a window watching the tavern. And she's like, okay, that makes sense. He wouldn't be here without guards of some kind. But they're not with him in the tavern. They're just keeping an eye on the tavern, which makes sense. He's protecting himself. So they go back inside with her disguise dropped. And they walk up to this man openly. And they discuss things for a few minutes. He seems very nervous. And he confirms that this is the group that he's going to meet. And after he confirms this, he casts Horrid Wilting on the entire tavern. This is a very high level spell. It's a level 8 spell. And it does 12d8 necrotic damage, which if you're not a D&D person, that's a lot of damage. Now, what happened was every commoner in the tavern died instantly. And I wasn't expecting to kill any of the players. I was just thinking that maybe he was expecting to get rid of any of the players because, you know, he's trying to get a jump on them. He's led them into a trap. Unfortunately, all of my players rolled 4 natural ones in a row. I've never seen that before. It scared me. I was really worried that I had killed someone. But thankfully, he rolled really low on his magic, and my paladin is a high enough level that she gives resistance to magic. So they didn't take as much damage as I was worried they were going to. But I've never seen 4 natural ones in a row, and that was really scary. But anyway, the guy is still there, and he's completely unharmed. He hasn't taken any damage at all. And he's like, dang, I really hope that was going to take at least one of you out. And they're like, you killed all these people just to get us? And he's like, yeah, I know what you guys are doing. It's not... I don't know why you wouldn't think this would be a trap. And they were like, okay, well, it's on now. So they try to attack him, but he's an illusion. He had cast a spell called Mislead, which makes it so you can make an illusory copy of yourself and you go invisible. So yeah, he says, see you later, basically, vanishes as an illusion does. He sends his goons from the other building across the way into the tavern to attack them. And that's where we ended the session. So, I am a very much show behind the curtain DM. I like to explain how things happen because I don't ever want to seem like I'm cheating my players. So I explained about Mislead and I explained about Horrid Wilting. And that he was actually one of the people in the building across the way, his physical body, and was keeping an eye on the situation. His illusion had never interacted with anything. He had come in through the open door. He had ordered a drink, but never drank it. He had never touched the paladin in her disguise. So I had tried to make sure that that was all set up. And I said that he could see the tavern through the open door from the other building and thus could cast the spell. So all my players seemed like they thought it was really cool. It really made them not like this guy and want to finish him off and defeat him because he had, offered to parlay and had betrayed and led them into a trap, which thankfully did not hurt them as much as it could with 4 nat ones. Afterward, I did talk to one of my players who's a fellow DM and I said, did this seem fair? This is the first time I've done this to anybody or any of my players where I've led them into like minor traps before, but this is the first big one with a big loss of life. And I checked everything with them and they said, yeah, that seems fair. And I'm like, okay, because I just want to check. Because sometimes as a DM, you get a little worried that your players might be lying to you a little bit and telling you that they're having a good time or telling you that something was cool or telling you that something was fair. They might be not telling you the truth. And so I just wanted validation from my other DM person that it was cool. And they said it was. And I'm like, perfect. Thank you. I needed that. Because there were ways, I had put in ways that they could have avoided getting into this trap. They could have not met with the guy at all. Tried to do a hit on him or something. They could have cast some kind of magic to see that and it was illusion. They could have checked out the other building and gotten rid of those guys in the other building or chased them away or led them away or something. And possibly learned that he was invisible in the other building. Many things could have happened that could have had them avoid this pseudo trap, which didn't even hurt them that much. Which worked out great for me, but I just wanted to make sure it seemed fair to the players that they had those options, even though they didn't realize it. So yeah. If you're ever worried about whether something seems fair, just check with someone else who is a DM, maybe, or a player and not in your game, and just kind of check the situation over and be like, did this seem fair? Or I was being too sneaky or pulling something over on my players a little bit too much. And you may or may not get validation, but take the criticism to heart, whether it's good or bad. Because you're not perfect. You can make mistakes. Because if you're anything like me, you do start to worry that your players are not being entirely honest with you. Yeah, but the important thing is this turned out cool. Everybody seemed to have a good time. And I'm looking forward to next session because all of these goons are going to start to come in and they're not super hurt, but mildly hurt, and they're gonna have to fight a bunch of people. And then deal with the repercussions of possibly being framed for getting rid of all these people in this tavern. So yeah. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy this D&D story time. I do like telling them every once in a while. I hope you're having a great day. If you're not having a great day, your bad day is over with soon. Like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.